Thank you so much for attending my presentation about Delcatty's wasted potential, and first let's talk about its traits. As you might expect from a normal type Pokemon you can get early on, its stats are awful, but these aren't normal trash. Nope, we're entering a whole other level of horrific. Before Gen 7, nothing was above 70, an already poor number. It doesn't dish damage or take damage, and even though it's a cat, this thing isn't fast. Things do get way better with its move pool though. It has all the attacking options you'd expect, like normal stab, but some other cool coverage too. Sucker Punch and Shadow Ball check the ghost types that should wall it, Wake Up Slap Nails resists, and Iron Tail is a possible, albeit risky option, but where it really shines is support. Delcatty has a lot of ways to fuck you up, including Toxic, Thunder Wave, and even Sing. This makes it a real pain to deal with once it's in, spreading all kinds of status. Or, if you're a VGC head, Fake Out can provide a ton of momentum to your side of the field. But that's not what we're here for. Let's talk about signature ability Normalize. There's a few abilities that fit under this umbrella. Aerolate, Pixelate, and Refrigerate are all very powerful. These turn all of your normal type moves into a different type, Flying, Fairy, or Ice respectively, and on top of getting the regular 1.5 times stat boost, they get an additional 1.2. To fully understand the damage this can deal, let's look at Mega Salamence, who gets Aerolate. Now your 120 base power double edges have a 1.8 times total power boost, and coming off of 145 attack, you can imagine the strength. Normalize is very similar, albeit not the same. It basically has the reverse effect, turning all of your moves into the normal type. Then, like its cousins, you receive a 1.2 times increase. At first glance, this is very powerful and looks to give it a breaking role, but as we'll talk about later, that's not always the case. Delcatty actually does have some surprisingly strong ways to take advantage of Normalize, at least in theory. The first, and most obvious, is powering up already strong stab. We turn back to Double Edge, which has a very high power and can, to some extent, patch up its poor attack. Even though it loses classic type coverage, it's not impossible to make use of the moves themselves. The most common is Sucker Punch. This 70 base power move has priority, but only works when the opponent uses an attacking move. With Normalize, it becomes pretty strong and can make up for mediocre speed. While not perfect in any way, it's a very valuable tool. Last, let's talk about status. Turning a support move into the normal type can be legitimately valuable sometimes. The most important by far is Thunder Wave, which can actually affect ground types. The golem that normally eats it for breakfast doesn't adore switching into paralysis. While yes, ghosts now handle it, this is a very unique role and can be very important. As cool as all of this seems, Delcatty's stats are way too bad to see any real usage. Even with normalized boost, it's not all that strong, and unlike last video's subject, Electrode, it can make up for it with speed. Thus, Delcatty's been reduced to uselessness among the useless. Being worse than such threats as Dragonair and Cubone, Delcatty earns its keep as one of the worst fully evolved Pokemon, so how could it be fixed? The initial answer is very obvious, just buff its stats. Game Freak gave it a speed bump to 90 in Gen 7, which was nice, but didn't do enough. For Delcatty to even be usable, we'd probably need around 80 stat points to work with. Something like 105 attack and 120 speed seems pretty reasonable. You aren't breaking it, but this lets its supportive sets and attacking sets thrive. The other problem is more interesting. The way that Normalize works kind of fucks it over a little. All the other abilities like it only change normal type moves and leave everything else the same, but Normalize removes every bit of coverage Delcatty has, and since its strongest moves are normal type anyways, the ability isn't much more than a small power boost and is often a net negative. This makes it very easy to stop. Just have one Ghost or Bulky Steel on your team and you'll never lose. I'm honestly not too sure what I'd change about it. If your only concern is trying to make Delcatty good, the best course of action seems pretty simple. Increase its buff to moves that are already normal type to 1.5 times and remove its effects from others, but then it's just adaptability, which is obviously boring and takes away the spirit of the ability. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. I'd legitimately love to hear them. In conclusion, despite some very interesting traits, Delcatty is awful. Those stats really hurt, but it also has some more interesting, complex flaws with its signature ability Normalize. Thank you so much for watching.